Jump off that exhausting hamster wheel and into balanced living with Dr. Marissa.
Promise you joy in the mystery.
Dr. Marissa, also known as the Asian Oprah. Her mission, to be a beneficial presence on the planet. Her purpose, to be your personal advocate to live, laugh, love, learn. Her life motto, don't die wondering. Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pei.
And welcome. You are tuned into Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa every weekday morning here at KCAA AM 1050, FM 102.3, FM 106.5, and streaming everywhere on every platform imaginable, because I'm here to splatter more hope and happiness on you on the station that leaves no listener behind. AM 1050, FM 102.3, FM 106.5, and streaming. Listen now at kcaaradio.com if you're not in your car. Otherwise, tune in. Get into the station. Get into the vibe. So, the first segment, I've affectionately named it, What's Up, Doc? As I have friends, when I come in, they say, that doctor's in the house. And for those of you who are wondering what kind of a doctor I am, I'm actually not an MD. I'm a PhD. So I have a doctorate in organizational psychology, which qualifies to call myself a doctor. And it's not clinical psychology. So I'm not a shrink. Unless you want me to help you expand, but I'm a PhD. Now, for those of you who don't know what PhD stands for, it's the Doctor of Philosophy, but that's not the way I define it. I say that, a BS is Bachelor of Science, also known as Bull Shiitake. And then there's MS, which is a Master of Science, which also known as more shiitake. And then finally, PhD stands for piled, higher, and deeper. So I know, don't give up my day job, but I love to laugh. If you haven't figured that out from my first full week last week on the air, you will know this by the end of this week for sure. It's one of my favorite sounds in the world. I love to laugh. And I love that saying, you do not stop laughing when you grow older. You grow older because you stop laughing. So I'm going to try to make you laugh as much as possible. I think the best thing about being happily divorced, people ask me, do you miss marriage and all that? The one thing I don't miss at all is every single day, my husband would tell me that I was not funny. And I would come back and say, I was just speaking on stage with Frank Motek, 5,000 people. They were laughing. And he would say, well, they were just trying to make you feel better, or they didn't have a sense of humor. So I'm grateful for this thing called divorce, because I own my funny. I love making people laugh, but especially making myself laugh. So if you have a joke that you have that is clean enough to tell on the air, please do. Tell it to me at drmarissa.life, and any comments and questions. And if you want to sign up for the question of the day that I'll be doing here and there, whenever it's schedule wise, I have so many things already scheduled for you. I'm so excited. Besides today's guest, who's going to talk about depression and how to get out of it, I have a guest this week talking about superhuman strength. I have interviews with mayors. I have interviews celebrating Gay Pride Month. Just so many possible things. There's the alarm sound effect telling you that it's true. So I hope you keep it here every morning from 8 to 9. Those of you who followed me over from my afternoon primetime slot after 475 consecutive weeks on the air, I did get a bump up, and to be your honored and privileged morning show host. And I'm so grateful for that. And I am really, really looking forward to getting to know y'all better and vice versa. So keep it tuned here. I thought I would give you a happy 88 tool today, or a challenge. Some of you may not know I'm also the best-selling author of a book called 8 Ways to Happiness from Wherever You Are. And the whole first week I did not do an Asian Oprah giveaway. So this week we're going to give Asian Oprah giveaways. So an audiobook copy of 8 Ways to Happiness from Wherever You Are is what you get for the first 3 people to go to drmarissa.life who are listening to me now or later. And just on the pop-up, when it asks for your email, just put in the subject line Asian Oprah giveaway, and I'll get a promo code to you so you can download that book. The best part of the book is that part proceeds go to Habitat for Humanity. It's published by Morgan James, my New York publisher. Forward by Michael Bernard Beckwith, my big brother. Endorsed on the back cover by Neil Donald Walsh, New York Times bestselling author of Conversations with God. Endorsed in the front by Layla Ali and Dawn Wells, who you heard last week. Beloved actress Marianne from Gilligan's Island, who is in heaven now. Just a whole host of fabulous people who were kind enough to endorse the book. So if you don't want to wait to win an audio pocket copy, or if you want to actually get a signed copy, go to drmarissa.life and I'll be able to give you that there. I also have a children's book that if anyone buying an 8 Ways to Happiness is going to get a free copy of My Mommy What Are Feelings. And it is a drawing, coloring, teaching book for kids who have trouble expressing their feelings, like the adults, maybe the parents who were not allowed to express their feelings and want a way to teach their kids. So those are 2 items from my marketplace, offering it to you for free so that you can be and choose to be happy 88% of the time, which is your birthright. And that is the Happy 88 tool. Choice starts with a C. I want you to choose every moment today. You have a choice to either talk about the headlines, who's mad at who's accusing who, what horrible thing someone has done. You have a choice. You can do that. It's on the headlines. Or I want you to choose instead to talk about what's going well in your life. Now, there's a concept. What is going on? Well, there's nothing going on well in my life right now, Dr. Marissa. And I beg to differ. If you've got food nearby, something over your head, little money in your pocket, you're in the top 8% of those on the planet. If you don't have that, there's so many resources and places that you can go and get help. So that's what I want you to focus on today. And when we come back, we're going to have, if you're still unconvinced and if you are hurting from something called depression, then you'll want to tune in. My next 2 segments will be with Linda Bjork, her book called Crushed, and her journey out of depression. We will be right back with Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa. And we're back. You are tuned into Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa. Your new KCAA AM 1050, FM 102.3, FM 106.5, streaming everywhere. Morning host on this CNBC NBC News Radio channel. And I'm so glad that you are with me. Actually, you don't have a choice if you're driving and you're tuned into AM 1050. And as you know, I'm here to bring you topics and guests that you can get to your birthright of being happy 88% of the time. And I have a special guest for you today. I actually was on her hot seat not too long ago, and now turnabout is fair play. She's on mine. I would love for you to welcome Linda Bjork to my studio, and let me give her some fabulous applause. Here we go. Linda Bjork is an author, speaker, blogger, podcast host, and founder and executive director of Hope for Healing nonprofit charity. Some of her books include Crushed, A Journey Through Depression, and Amazon bestseller, You Got This, an action plan to calm fear, anxiety, worry, and stress. Linda's personal mission is to empower people to become their best selves. So, once again, please welcome to the studio, Linda Bjork.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Dr. Marissa. I'm delighted to be here.
Well, I'm delighted that you are here. And your book is a journey book. Yes, the Crushed one.
Very much so.
Because looking at you, and those of you who aren't streaming the audiovisual, you can catch that later on Tiki Live as well as my YouTube channel. But she's very happy looking anyways. And the book, though, is about depression. And I wanted to bring you on because depression, if it wasn't an issue, hashtag BC19, the time before COVID, it definitely is now. So let's start with defining depression. So I know it's a little different for everybody, but you're the expert in this. So help me understand what qualifies as depression.
That is an excellent question. So for me, depression was the inability to be happy. There just is a feeling of emptiness. And I would love to share my story if that's okay.
Absolutely. Please do.
Oh, thank you. So you're probably familiar with the Japanese art form called kintsugi, where they take broken pottery and then they reassemble it using gold dust mixed with lacquer. And it creates something that is new and beautiful and unique. And it's actually stronger than it was before it was broken. It goes from broken to beautiful. And my story is a journey of a transformation from broken to beautiful. And there are different kinds of broken. Like Dr. Mish, you say you're walking across the street and you accidentally drop your cell phone and the screen cracks and you think, oh, shoot, I broke my phone. But you might still use it because it still works. Mm-hmm. And for me, my basic brokenness was lifelong feelings that I'm not good enough, I'm invisible, I'm not important. And so I felt broken, but I could still function and I could still live my life. Mm-hmm. Then there's another level of broken. So you're walking across the street, you accidentally drop your cell phone, and then a truck runs over it. Well, suddenly you have a different kind of a situation. It's not just broken, it is crushed. It mm-hmm. no longer functions. And for me, that was struggling with debilitating depression and social anxiety. And all I wanted to do was just curl up in the fetal position and hide. And it was not very fun. And it felt like my comfort zone absolutely collapsed. And I did not feel safe anywhere or with anyone. And I felt empty. I felt hollow. I could no longer function. It was very, very different.
Interesting. Great analogies, by the way. So what crushed you? What was the truck?
Yeah, what was the truck? There were several trucks.
Who was the truck?
So for me, we all have issues in our lives. We have struggles, we have challenges, and I am no exception. And I've dealt with lots of things like poverty. There was a time where I was so poor I couldn't afford to go to the grocery store and buy food. And I've dealt with illness. I was once so sick that I actually broke a rib coughing. And I've had reconstructive jaw surgery to try to correct a congenital defect. And as part of that, they wired my mouth shut for 6 weeks. And I could not talk and I could not eat. And the only sustenance was what I could suck up through a straw. And that was not particularly fun. And I've also dealt with trauma in my life, like the time that I arrived at the scene of a motorcycle accident in time to see my son's broken body lying in the middle of an intersection, surrounded by flashing lights and personnel. And that is an image I will never forget.
Is he okay?
Is
he okay now? Okay.
He is. Thank you. I've also been awoken in the middle of the night with a phone call that my beautiful 9-month-old grandson had a seizure and was not expected to make it through the night. He was life-flighted to Primary Children's Hospital where they did emergency surgery to try to release some of the pressure on his brain, followed by another delicate brain surgery to try to preserve his life. And they were successful in preserving his life, but unfortunately, through this incident, he did sustain brain damage. And also, I have another beautiful grandchild who was diagnosed with cancer at age 5 months. So we all have struggles, we all have trials. We do the very best we can to be able to handle them and to be able to move forward. But sometimes things happen in our lives that are so big or so unexpected that we just get overwhelmed. And we don't handle it very well. And if we're not careful, then we can slide into depression. And that is what happened with me. It's like I fell into this deep, dark pit. And it was so deep that no sunlight or happiness or hope could even reach me. And there were no windows and no doors in this deep, dark place. And I did not see any way out. I thought, well, from here on out, this is my new reality. This is as good as it gets. And the best I can ever hope for is to just endure in misery for the rest of my life.
Yeah. Well, those are a lot of things that, remind me of that when bad things happen to good people, or, all the possible calamities that can happen, which is why I always say pain in life is mandatory, but suffering is optional. So how did you get out of that pit? What was the lift up out of that pit of despair?
Oh my goodness. The lift out of that despair is that I had somebody reach out to me. So at the time, I was so good at hiding everything that almost no one knew that I was struggling. Everyone thought I had it all together. And I'd been in this place for about 5 years. And my sister, who was training to become a, transformational life coach at the time, and she had no idea that I was struggling. And she was going to host this women's retreat. So for 3 days and 3 nights, she was going to teach people how to be happy and live fulfilled. And so she invited me. And when I received that invitation, it made me physically sick. I thought, there is no way that I can survive 3 days and 3 nights around other people without a means of escape. I could barely make it through a conversation before I needed to run away. And I did not want to fall apart in front of these people. I did not want to be exposed that I was really a mess. So even though I didn't want to go, the idea kept staying in my head. And I knew that I needed to. And so I gathered all of my courage and I went. And I'm so glad, because that decision changed my life. It was as if my sister lowered a ladder down into my deep, dark hole, and she showed me a way that I could climb out. And it was a ladder, not an elevator. It was not instant. It was not the push of a button. It was hard, and it took work and it took time, but it worked. And I have learned from my experience that healing is not instant. It is not like flipping on a light switch. It is gradual, like a sunrise. And it is maybe the change from moment to moment. You might not even notice it, but it does come, and it is beautiful and it is powerful.
So would you say that moment was that voice that said, go to the retreat, even though you didn't feel like going to the retreat, even though you didn't want to go to the retreat, but something in there worked on your own behalf and said, no, you're going? Is that the still small voice that some people talk about, or the incessant clamor, the same voice that told me to do radio when I had no desire or intention to do 9 years ago? Is it that voice? Was it a protective
I would imagine
voice?
so, where people feel, some people call it intuition, some people call it a gut feeling, some people call it inspiration, but it was something that I didn't want to do, but I needed to do.
Sounds great. And that is a compelling story we're having from Linda Bjork right now. We're going to come back with more of her story and introduce you to her book called Crushed. So if you or anyone that you know is going through what they feel like is depression, obviously from the losses that have happened through the pandemic, or even BC-19, things that were happening to you, come back. You're tuned in to Take My Advice. I'm Not Using It. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show. And we'll be right back with Linda Bjork. And we are back. Thank you for tuning in to Take My Advice. I'm Not Using It. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa. Every morning now with you on KCAA AM 1050, FM 102.3, FM 106.5, the station that leaves no listener behind. And you know me as Dr. Marissa, also known as the Asian Oprah. And yes, I was actually introduced to Oprah as the Asian Oprah. I did not give myself that name. So in case I actually met someone on the beach path covering an event yesterday who said, "Are you Asian Oprah?" So it was kind of funny. But I am delighted to bring you topics and guests that will help you get to that 88% happy mark. And today is no exception. We've been talking to a lovely woman that I got to meet, I guess it was last month. I was on her show. And so Turnabout is Fair Play. I have her on my show. Her name is Linda Bjork, and she's sharing with us her journey through depression. So I don't know if any of you have ever had that happen to you, but certainly during COVID, we are experiencing more and more of that. And I brought her on because I wanted her not only to talk about her own journey, but how to get out of depression, which is a hugely important skill for us these days, especially when there's so much loss from COVID. So please welcome back Linda Bjork. And you know, I love applause. So here we go. You get welcome back. So you went to this retreat.
Uh-huh.
And then what was the process from there to get out of your pit of despair?
So the process feels very much like learning and doing. I'm learning that it's not education that changes us, it is application that makes the difference. And it's not unlike in your book, The 8 Ways to Happiness, how after each chapter you have a section called Learning and Action, and you share balance tools. And so it's by learning new ways to think and then applying different things. And some of the tools that I got to use, one of them, not unlike your book, is journaling. And journaling and getting a chance to be able to write out your feelings and your thoughts and to be able to discover kind of what is the source of the problem. So what is the source of, I knew the source of my being crushed, but what was the source of my being broken? And in a way, Dr. Marissa, becoming crushed for me was actually a blessing in disguise, because when I was just broken, I just kept going. I mean, you just keep going because you still function.
Mm-hmm.
But when I couldn't, then I did something about it. And it actually helped take care of being crushed and also being broken. All of those things were able to make a difference and make a change. Some of the other tools that we used were singing a song. Music is actually a very powerful tool, and it has great effect on the brain. And since doing this, I've actually done quite a bit of research, and listening to music, your brain waves actually synchronize somewhat to the beat of the music. So if you're having a hard time getting motivated, listening to positive, upbeat music can literally jumpstart your brain and get it started. And it's been scientifically proven to help reduce muscle tension and anxiety and depression. One of my favorite studies is they took, you take a group, you have a control group and say, just keep doing what you're doing. And then they have another group where they said, the only change we want you to make is to sing a song every morning. And then after 30 days, they checked to see how they were doing. And the group that was the control group, they were the same, but the group that added singing to their daily routine had significantly lower rates of depression and anxiety. And
That's
it's
fascinating.
crazy to think that such a tiny little thing makes such a huge impact. And they're not even sure all of the reasons why, but it lowers your cortisol levels, it increases the endorphins in your brain. And the scientists have also found a little an organ in the inner ear called the sacculus. And when we sing, it stimulates that, and that sends a boost of pleasure to the brain. And it doesn't matter if you don't have a great voice. I don't have a great voice, but the little sacculus doesn't care. It just says, oh, you're singing. Let's turn on some happy up there. So
Wow.
that is an amazing thing that helps.
I love, best part of my show is learning things I didn't know. So I'm a retired lounge lizard. So I actually used to sing at piano
Awesome.
bars and sing to people getting drunk. So they really care after the, second set what I was singing. But give me an example of something that you would sing.
Okay, like Brave by Sarah Bareilles. So picking a song, something that the words had some meaning to me about being able to speak and being able to, because I felt like I was silenced. I couldn't speak. I wasn't allowed to speak. And it's interesting, Dr. Marissa, that I have since learned also that these feelings that I have had of being broken and being crushed are actually quite common, even in people that you think have it all together. And I did write a book. It's called Crushed: A Journey Through Depression. And I have received so many letters from readers who have said, wow, I felt like I was reading my own story. I felt like you were in my head. And they said they never had felt so seen and so understood. And it gave them hope that they could heal too. And this is not just people who are struggling with depression and anxiety. These are all kinds of different people dealing with all kinds of different issues. I'm learning that even though our experiences in life can be very different, our emotions and our feelings are actually very similar and relatable. And that is what Crushed is about. This is me allowing myself to be open and vulnerable so that I can help other people.
Absolutely.
I want to lower a ladder down to anyone who feels trapped in a dark place.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And I just flashed up the picture of her. That's beautiful artwork, by the way. I just realized that the bottom picture is a shattered picture of the beautiful orchid there.
Exactly.
But, where can you get the book?
Oh, Amazon. You can get
Amazon.
it on Amazon.
Okay.
That's
All right.
Best bet.
Okay, beautiful. And the only song that came up when you were talking about, I was actually asking you to sing a little bit of it, which is like totally unfair. But
I'm going to pass on that. You are the one who's the lounge singer, and I'm the one who's the singer in my bathroom with the door closed so that nobody can hear me.
But I think it is absolutely fabulous that singing and expressing can elevate your body's ability to deal with tragedy or pain or loss or grief or depression. But the song, I have to be honest, the song that came up when you were talking was Let It Go, Let It Go.
Perfect.
So I sing that one quite a bit actually whenever I'm like getting a little bit ticked off at people or at the situation. But that's an aside. So journaling is a tool. I think I want to go back just for a second to that point of moment of clarity or moment where you decide that, I really don't want to dive under the covers anymore. That is an important point, I think, because, we all have friends, I'm sure, who are really stuck and unhappy. And they call us and tell us the same story for the umpteenth, thousandth time. And I used to think I was doing them a favor by listening to their tales of woe, right? Justified anger, justified resentment, justified pissed offedness, justified fear, loneliness, depression, all of that. But then I realized that, I can't help them unless they want to help themselves.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to use you as an example. I'm sure
Bring it.
you were, at the time, you didn't open your mouth to say I need help, correct? Like you were saying, you kept the outside looking,
Oh yeah,
good.
I look totally
And I totally get that, because that was me,
Uh-huh.
right? Everything's about looking good on the outside, and the inside we're just like that shattered, run over iPhone in the middle of the freeway.
Absolutely.
So even before listening to that voice, what steps can people take to begin that process? So you don't, I'm talking about people who are complaining about the same thing over and over and over and over again. What advice can you give, one, to the people who are helping them, and two, to the people who are going through it?
That is such a good question. And I wish that there was a magical answer. But instead of having one size fits all, I think there are just some basic guidelines that we can use.
Perfect.
So for a person who is trying to help someone,
Mhm.
allowing people to have their own power is very important. Not trying to take over, not trying to fix somebody, but allowing them to own their own thing. And that can look a lot of different ways. In some ways, it can be, like you said in your example, of just not listening and saying it's okay, but allowing people to be accountable. You could say something like, what are you going to do about it? And let people own their own problems. For good or for ill, we own our own problems.
Mhm.
And another thing is to offer hope and to teach true principles. Those kinds of things are also very helpful. And when we allow people their agency and allow them to own their own problems, it can be really frustrating, because that means you have to wait for them to choose. And dang it, people don't always choose to do the things that we want them to do.
Yeah.
And that can be really frustrating. So in my personal experience, my sister did a couple things that helped me. Like I said, she had absolutely no idea that
Older
I
or
was
younger
struggling.
sister?
She's
Was she
older,
an older? Oh,
8 years older.
Mm-hmm.
And when she invited me, and I just thought, I think I'd rather die.
Yeah.
And then I finally was brave enough to tell her, I said, look, I would really love to support you. I know you've worked hard on this, but I'm not in a good place, and I don't want to fall apart.
Good for you.
And her response, so to me, that was as open as I dared be at the time. And her response was, you don't have to come for me. This is not about me. This is about people who want to come and learn how to be happy. And then she said, I had no idea that you were struggling, and I'm so sorry. And she said, you look so together, so, so perfect, but I understand, because I felt that way too. I felt like everyone thought I had it all together, when inside I was actually miserable. And I thought that I just had to endure in misery, and that my lot in life is, I'm strong enough and I can handle it. She said, but now I'm genuinely happy, and it's wonderful. So even though it was a simple conversation, some of the elements in that conversation were, first, she gave me permission. She gave me permission to say no. And she didn't make it about her. She didn't try to force me. She didn't try to coerce me or guilt me. She allowed me to make my own choice. And another thing is that she helped me to understand that what I was feeling was normal and okay, and that she had felt that way too. And so I think those kinds of things are a really good way to begin, with compassion. Compassion that where you are is understandable, but she also gave me something to hope for, that there was a way to become genuinely happy. She was going to teach true principles. And where I felt that hope was completely blocked off, there was no hope. I thought that was extinguished forever. That conversation opened just that teeny, teeny sliver that maybe, just maybe she could understand how I was feeling.
Right.
And maybe, just maybe, she might have something that could help me.
Mm-hmm.
And those small, simple steps that she taught, I mean, they sound so simple, it almost sounds offensive. Like, "Oh, really? Come on, this is a real problem. Don't give me these little teeny stupid things." But when you do the science and you do the research as to why things works, it's actually fascinating. It's through small and simple things that great changes can come. But again, it's like that sunrise. It's gradual, just step by step. Another
Great.
one of the tools we used, is gratitude, writing a gratitude journal. And that sounds like, oh, that's really nice. That's for like happy people who do happy things. But there has been so much research done on how gratitude affects our brain. It literally improves the neuroplasticity of the brain, which means we become more adaptable. We can handle change better. And one of my favorite studies done on gratitude was actually done by Berkeley. And again, they take people, you have your control group and you have your other group. And the control group, they just keep doing what you're doing. And the study group, they said, we want you to practice gratitude. We want you to write gratitude journals. We want you to think about things that you're grateful for. And then after a period of time, they put fMRI scanners on their head and measured the brain activity. And they found that the group that had been practicing gratitude had more activity in the prefrontal cortex area, the area where we are decision making, we are consciously thinking. It is the present. And so it literally helps us to be able to make better decisions. It also helps us to be able to think better and to be able to be more in the present. We all talk about how, no, I've got so much on my plate. And even though there isn't an actual plate, everybody knows what that means. It just makes so much sense that there's so much in your head. And we have the problems that we're dealing with, but we also often on that plate we're worrying about the past and we're worrying about the future. And if we can just work a little bit on letting some of those things go and just work on the present problems, all of a sudden the plate doesn't feel so overwhelming and we're able to handle things better. And so this simple act of practicing gratitude is actually extremely powerful. And it's scientifically verified that this is a real thing.
Yeah, that's super cool. And if you've just tuned in and you're wondering who I'm talking to today on Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It, Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, it is author and podcaster and many more things. Linda Bjork, she is the author of Crushed. I almost said Shattered. Crushed. A book about her personal journey through depression. And just now you were talking about gratitude and the scientific evidence around gratitude. And I know when I was on your show, I talked about taking a bite of my gratitude sandwich. Those of you who've been following me for a while know what that means. But it is true that if you start your day, instead of scrolling through your social media and just sit up and focus on 8 specific things that you're grateful for, I promise you, all of those neural connections that Linda was just talking about are going to create a buffer zone for, bad things that might happen. And the power of that simple act is really interesting. Now, I wanted to go back to one point we were talking about helping people who don't really want to be helped or helping people that we don't know need help. I believe that there is a balance. So if you're a person that's listening now and you're falling in the category of Linda and I, when everything's falling apart on the inside, but everything is looking good on the outside, then for you, the point that she made around, just opening that door and saying, I'm really not as put together on the inside as the outside, may be the turning point that is great for you to begin your journey out of that pit of despair and depression. But for people who have practiced, on the other hand, using all the bad things that have happened to you as excuses to not be happy, because God knows if you knew what happened to me, you would be unhappy too, then those are also on the other end of the extreme. The one that you said, what are you going to do about that? I actually say, is it working for you? I'm a little tougher.
like
Is
that.
it working? You know, what you've been doing to try to help you be happier, is it working for you? Is complaining about the pandemic over and over and over and what you've lost, which many people have, is that working for you? And so a little bit of tough love from Dr. Marissa right now. You have a choice. You can focus on the opportunities that are now open, or you can continue to lament everything that you've lost. And the hashtag COVID silver lining is, we're all in this together. No one has been untouched by this pandemic. So, you can't, raise your hand and say, I'm the only one that has been hurt. We've all been hurt. So, and take the time, stomp your feet, be pissed, and then do the gratitude Linda's talking about. Be very specific about your ability to be grateful. So there's my little support for Linda's gratitude. Talk to me about, so I love your analogy of there's a ladder, that you have a ladder that you've lowered into the bottom of your pit of despair. And you've talked about journaling, gratitude. What are some other steps in your ladder that you use to come up? Because I'm guessing that you still have moments of depression. You still have, bad things still happen. What are some maintenance steps for people to help them stay out of the pit?
Excellent. What a great question. And you're right. I am not perfect, but I think I'm about at least 88% perfect. And I think I'm happy at least like 88% of the time. And, I may not necessarily wake up in the best of moods, but I can put myself in a good mood every single day. And so I do maintenance of a morning routine where I spend a little bit of time each morning getting centered. And I work on my physical health and mental and emotional and spiritual, and just getting centered with a little bit of exercise and a little bit of quiet meditation and prayer, and a little bit of reading and kind of working my mind and helping to things, and making sure that I'm letting go of whatever emotions that I may be feeling with the problems that I'm dealing with today. Because, the problems did not end after I climbed up out of the ladder. They keep coming, darn it. Each day brings new issues and new problems. But I feel so much better equipped to be able to handle them.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. So, the problems, life is about, I don't call them problems, I call them opportunities for improvement. So when I look at it that way, and of course I am hashtag positively opinionated, but it just makes me feel better when I don't feel like I have the weight of the world on me. And none of us really, truly have the weight of the world on us. So the visual that I use to choose every single moment of the day is, do I want to be that guy pushing the rock up the hill, right? That famous art picture with the weight of the world and, kind of pushing on. Do I want to be that, or do I want to be that happy, laughing Buddha? So I have a choice every moment to be either the fat, happy, laughing Buddha, maybe not fat necessarily, but puffy, okay, or the rock pusher. And what Linda has been highlighting so eloquently is we always have a choice. We always have a choice of being steeped in the problems of the past and the fear of the future, past pain, future fear, or being in the present moment, which is a gift, if we choose to. Do I hear a yes?
Yes.
I'm agreeing with you, and you're agreeing with me, and then we're gonna let it go.
Yes, please.
Yes. So we're coming up at the end. The last question is a question that I ask all of my guests, from Corey Feldman to Anson Williams, Potsy on Happy Days. And that question is, to who or what are you most grateful for, or to?
Oh, I
Yeah.
have many people that I'm grateful for. First, I'm grateful for you for allowing me to visit with you today and to share my story. I am thankful for my sister for lowering a ladder to me. And I'm thankful for, as you call it, the UPS man.
My universal power source who delivers every morning when I pray and meditate. And she remembered that from my visit to her studio. So here's the book again, so you can have a visual. And you can get that book on Amazon. It's Crushed, A Journey Through Depression by Linda Bjork. And you can also go to her website. Your website is?
Oh, you can visit me at lindabjorkauthor.com, or you can go to my Hope for Healing website at hopeforhealingfoundation.org, where I have so many free tools, free resources, free books, free audio courses, all kinds of things to help people be happy, to gain confidence and self-esteem, to manage stress, and to help with depression and anxiety. So
That's
just
a
help make the
beautiful-
world a better place.
We didn't even get a chance to talk about that, but I love that. Hopeforhealing.com. Is that it?
Hopeforhealingfoundation.org.
Okay. Hopeforhealingfoundation.org. Free tools if you are feeling less than you know you could be happy-wise. Please go visit that foundation. And for that, because you are doing so much as someone who's gone through it, those are my favorite kind of guests. I'm giving you Dr. Marissa's Beneficial Presence on the Planet Award. That's for you. That's for you. I loved our conversation. Also, she's been kind enough to offer a free Asian Oprah giveaway. So you get a book and you get a book. Actually, only one person. The first person that goes to drmarissa.life gets a autographed copy of her book, Crushed, sent to them. So go to drmarissa.life, and in the pop-up, put under subject Crushed, and then I'll know it's you, and we'll get that book out to you. Thank you so much, Linda, for coming in and sharing your journey and your story and your book, and peace and blessings to you.
Well, she has been dubbed the Asian Oprah, and she just wants all of us to be happy.
Dr. Marissa, aka the Asian Oprah, says the most important thing you can choose is choosing to be happy.
You are tuned into my weekly talk radio TV show called Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa.
That's the idea for Dr. Marissa Pay's new book called 8 Ways to Be Happy.
Many of us say, I am my own worst critic. Nobody's harder on me than I am. And my response to that is, stop it! Why are you doing that to yourself? You have to be your biggest fan, because if you can't at the end of the day say, I did a good job, who is? We don't have to constantly be angry at the things that are wrong. Why don't we choose to be happy about things that are right? We have the choice. That's our muscle. And life is so amazing if we can see it.